Is Google biased against my practice? The spoiler alert answer is most likely yes. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's Healthcare Marketing RX. Our goal with this video series is to help the owner of the practice, the decision maker, whether it's by yourself, you have partners, it's the practice manager, whoever it is. Our goal is to help you make more informed decisions about marketing, whether you're going to start, stop, or change some marketing. You're not the one who's going to be doing it, but you are the ones who are going to be spending money on it. And we want to help you get a little bit smarter about some important topics in marketing so that if you do contemplate hiring somebody or devoting time from somebody inside your practice on it, that you're a little smarter about it and more informed and you can make a better decision. So let's start with what the heck is this bias anyway? And it's commonly known as the proximity bias, Google's proximity bias. And this is really what it is in plain language. When someone searches for what you do, not the name of your practice, but for the services you offer, practices that are physically closer to the searcher are going to show higher in search results, everything else being equal. It's an important caveat, but nevertheless, proximity, closeness matters. Let's break this down for you, and let me give you a couple of examples. This is a screenshot of a city in Chicagoland, a suburb known as Palatine, Illinois. And Palatine's pretty healthy size. It's about 68,000 people total. So when you're in the same city, that's important to Google. Google favors searchers, search results for businesses that are in the same city as where the searcher is. So let's imagine that this is you, this is your practice, and you're up here in the northwest corner of Palatine. And right down here is somebody searching for your services, and over here is one of your competitors. You're both about equidistant apart from the searcher, which means you both have a good chance of showing up in search results, and all of the things being equal, you both probably will. Now, if you have more competition, if your website's really bad or your search engine optimization is really bad, that's where all of the things being equal can become unequal. But for the purposes of understanding proximity bias, you've got a good shot here of showing highly in search results. If you were closer, let's say that you weren't up here, but you were kind of down here much closer, you've got an even better chance, and then vice versa for your competitor. But that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the basics of the proximity bias. Closeness matters when you're in the same city. But what if you're not? What if some of the people who are searching for you are in bordering cities or other cities? This is a zoomed out picture of Palatine, Illinois. Palatine's right in the middle here, just to show you the cities that border it and surround it. And if we pick just 4 of them, not even all of them, and look at the approximate populations of each one, another almost 128,000 people summed up for these 4 neighboring cities. And if somebody is in any of these cities searching for the services that you offer and you're in Palatine, Illinois, again, everything else being equal, they're not going to see you because of this bias. So if the city that you're in has a population that's large enough to feed your practice with the flow of new patients that you need, then this bias doesn't really matter much to you. But if your situation looks more like this, where it's not, or where you want or you need patients that are, a larger pool of patients to draw from, then this bias really starts to hurt. And it's even more of a pain. You could be closer to somebody searching for you than one of your competitors. But if your competitor and that searcher are in the same city and you're not, they're going to show, or they could show, but you will not. Let's zoom back in. Here's Palatine a little bit closer. And now let's imagine you're down here in the southeast corner, and there's a searcher right over here searching for your services just across this highway, really close to you in Arlington Heights. But down here is a competitor of yours, also in Arlington Heights. Well, this competitor has a much, much better chance of showing up in this searcher's search results than you do, simply because they're in the same city and you are not. And how ironic, isn't it? Google favors closeness, and this person's closer to you than your competition, but because you're in a different city, you might as well be a whole planet away. It doesn't matter how close you actually are. It's like Google puts up these electrified, large, thick, fences around the border of each city and will not show you in search results to people in neighboring cities unless you take action. And Why Google decided that's part of its proximity bias or how it views the world in terms of search results, we don't know. We just know that this is an issue. So with proximity bias, I kept saying all of the things being equal, how do you fight back? How do you make things a little unequal so that you can actually be shown despite Google's proximity bias? So I'm going to give you a few ideas. This is far from an exhaustive list, but it's enough to get you started so that if I've caught your attention to this problem, you're going to know enough to go to whoever's doing your marketing for you, whoever that might be, and you can ask them, hey, what are we doing about this? Are we shown in neighboring cities? Are we taking action? Are we doing stuff? Do we need to do more? So here's a few ideas that you can give them to help get them started. For online organic options, there's a pretty effective tool known as building city pages or location pages or geo pages. All three terms are used. And I'm going to go into each one of these in the next few slides. You've got online paid options, Google Ads and Facebook ads, or you can go around Google and you as a practice, you yourself, depending on how things staff out, you can devote time in the target cities outside of yours. You can also do some local print advertising. It does have its place. So let me walk you through each of these. Won't take very long, but first, a big assumption, at least for the online options. Your website and its SEO have to be solid in order for them to really work as well as they can. What does a solid website mean? Solid's my word. It means that it's presentable, it's professional, it's up to date. It's easy to find the information that somebody is looking for. It's easy to figure out where your phone number is. Basic stuff. You're not trying to win website design awards, but at the same time, it's not 6 or 7 years old. It doesn't look old. It doesn't have old, bad information, etc. And as far as the search engine optimization, again, you're not trying to win any SEO of the Year awards here, but you haven't totally ignored it either. The basics of website SEO are done. You've got metas, you've got some internal links, you've got the basics that need to be there, and any competent marketing agency should know what those are, should have done them already, and so these shouldn't be an issue for you. So the first, the organic online option talked about city pages. What is a city page? A city page is a page that you build on your website that is targeting a specific city. The way I describe it to people is it screams to Google, I am a page for this practice about this city because I want to rank in this city and tell people that we are close to them and that we do offer services that will benefit them. This is an example from a client of ours for a city page targeting Evanston, Illinois. My client is not in Evanston, Illinois. They are in a neighboring community. They are very close to Evanston, Illinois. They are closer to much of the population of Evanston than their competitors who are based in Evanston. But before we did this city page, just like I said earlier, whenever somebody searched for their services, they would not show up if they were in Evanston. And not just living in Evanston, by the way, you just have to be in Evanston when you do that search. You could be driving through, you could work at Evanston, but live somewhere else. But if you are in Evanston, when you do that search, we were not showing up. Google knows where you are. And so the proximity bias is happening in real time. The content that you put on a city page, you want to put specific information about that target city. And you've got a lot to choose from. You can talk about its history, local facts, local organizations. It might sound a little hokey, but it's got to be a legit page about that city. You, of course, are going to describe your practice, your services. You can have links to the bios of the practitioners, etc. It's going to be a pretty big, beefy page in terms of content because Google likes to chew on a lot of content. And then the SEO technicals are in place. You've figured out what the domain's going to be, www.yourpractice.com/city-state. You've got keywords that you're targeting, metas, etc., the things that any competent marketing agency ought to know about and ought to be able to do. And you can do any number of city pages you want. The one thing I will tell you is typically do not do more than one city page per city. So we would never do a second page for Evanston, Illinois. We don't need to. And it would confuse Google anyway. Google doesn't want to see two of the same thing. It doesn't know which one to rank. And inevitably what you would do is you'd be splitting traffic and search results amongst two pages rather than one. And that, while it sounds like you have two chances to rank rather than one, it actually works against you. The one area where I'll change my answer is if it's a very large city like Chicago or New York or a very large city. But in that case, let's just take Chicago. You wouldn't do 6 Chicago city pages. You would do maybe a neighborhood page, like Lincoln Park is a neighborhood. In New York City, you could do the different boroughs, and you could even break them down even more. Just don't repeat the same city with more than one city page. For paid options online, Google Ads and Facebook Ads. Here's the funny thing about Google. I've been talking all this time about proximity bias and how closeness matters. But if you want to pay Google, pay per clicks, heck, Google will put your ads anywhere you want. So you can just go around its search algorithm because the ads platform is different than its search platform. And you can go around it by paying for ads. So here's our map. Again, this is Palatine and the surrounding cities. You could pick any number of cities that you want and start placing ads. With Facebook, it's not a proximity bias, but it's I'm not sure what a good word for it is. But whenever you put a post either on your personal page or on your practice page, only a subset of the people who are following your page are ever going to see that post. Now, if they share it, then some of their friends and followers will see it. And that's always good. That's organic traffic, and that's really, really good. But you as a practice owner can't depend on other people doing that. So if you pay Facebook for ads to place ads, again, you can target them very specifically, including where. And so you could have ads up in a couple of weeks, and when you would never show in Wheeling on Google, you could with Facebook ads pretty quickly. So it's another option available to you. I talked about devoting cities in time in cities outside of yours. So this is more like, your feet on the ground, getting out and meeting people, getting in front of people. The online world is far from new here in 2021, but getting in front of people, I know we're in some stage of a pandemic here, but nevertheless, getting in front of people, meeting them, greeting them, helping build know, like, and trust is still very, very valuable. You've got options available to you. You can join local chambers of commerce and meet the business community. Give presentations to patients that you're targeting. Local libraries are really good about organizing people and helping you get the word out. Give an educational presentation about a condition that you treat, about conditions that you treat, about other topics, and that's a good way to get the word out about you. Meet with target referring providers. If your practice gets referrals from other doctors or from other providers, or if your practice really depends on that, if that's the nature of your practice, then you're probably already getting out and meeting them. Make sure that you're doing it, that you don't stop doing that. Keep doing it. Meet them, get to know them, explain what you do, ask for referrals. There's nothing sort of mystical about it, but it takes persistence and it takes consistency. And so my recommendation is be strategic on this. Pick 1 or 2 cities at a time and go deep. Really get to know people, really get to meet people, build relationships, because that network that you build will help you grow your network into other cities. Now, if you've got the resources and the practice to tackle more than 1 or 2 at a time, great, go for it. My point is, don't just scattershot. Don't spend, say, 3 days in Buffalo Grove and then be surprised and upset when nothing comes out of it. Spend time there. Whichever city you pick, spend time there, get to know the people, and it does typically pay off over time. Local print advertising. Okay, print has its place. It really does, and as long as it's used properly. So direct mail is a nice option. One nice thing about direct mail is you can get pretty granular in terms of the geography that you target. You can get right down to the mail route, right down to a neighborhood. There's ways to do this, and there's lots of local agencies that can help you do this. And advertising in local newspapers can also be effective. They're out there as long as it's a local paper. One thing to keep in mind is that the conversion rates are low. And so by conversion, I mean somebody sees let's say your direct mail card, and then they call you and they become a new patient. They converted into a patient, but those rates are really low with print. And so if you're going to take this on, what you have to be willing to do is to do it consistently and repetitively over time. I've met a number of people and a number of practice owners who say, yeah, direct mail doesn't work. And when I ask them, how'd you do it? Well, we did a couple of mailers and got nothing from it. And I could have finished their sentence. I knew you were going to get nothing from it. There's no guarantee you ever would get anything from it, but I can tell you, I can guarantee you that you'll get zero if you only do these things once or twice. So if you're going to think about doing this, you have to think about, we are going to carve out some of our budget to doing this maybe 4 times a year, 5 times a year, regularly. Whatever makes sense for the type of practice that you are, how competitive it is in the area that you're targeting. You know, if you're the only one who does what you do, all of the things being equal, you shouldn't need to advertise as much, as long as there's people who need what you do. But when there's when you have lots of competition and there's a lot of choices, you're going to have to do more of it. That's true for anything, by the way, not just print, but also online. You're going to have to do it more, and you're going to need to do it consistently. So if you hear this and you say, well, I'm not sure I can do it consistently, honestly, save your money. Don't even start, because the money that you do spend most likely won't pay off. And then the money's gone forever and you're frustrated. And let me just help you avoid that. Consistency or nothing when it comes to this. So thank you for listening. Our library of healthcare marketing RX videos is growing. And for more information about us, we are Mark Advisory Group. You can go to markadvisorygroup.com.